I am talking today about the subject of sleep training. I know it's a little bit of an iffy subject. It's one that I did a lot of research about before Bowie arrived, because losing sleep was one of the scariest things about becoming a parent. You know, everyone warns you. They're like, this is it, get ready to not sleep, just lie around in bed as much as you can. And you don't really understand what that means until the baby has arrived.
It's true.
Because I mean, I have worked 19 hours a day on set, you know, starting late at night, finishing midday the next day. And I thought, I'll have this, no problem. I've never understood sleep deprivation the way I do now. Like, because you're on call. It's not like, even after a 19-hour day, I would still get to go to sleep for like a solid, you know, whatever, 7-8 hour stretch.
Right.
Those stretches have
You can't just say like, no, I'm gonna keep sleeping, because like you said, like you are really a slave to them, as you should be when they're first born. But you're right, until you have the baby in your arms, you can read about it. And I think we actually talked about this, right? Like you can read about it, you can do whatever you want. You just don't know it until they're here. So cue you to save my day. Please introduce yourself for everybody. Tell them what you do. I just call you like the sleep expert lady who knows everything and is going to save me. But yes, introduce yourself. So hello everyone. My name is Alanna McGinn. I am founder of Good Night Sleep Site. We are family sleep consulting consultants, and we help babies to adults sleep better.
Yes. And your kind of theory on when to start sleep training is, I think, an important thing to mention, because I was of the school of thought that I'm gonna get this kid to sleep 12 hours through the night ASAP. I read 12 hours in 12 weeks. I read Cherish the First 6 weeks. I was, you know, hearing stories from my friends. Oh yeah, my baby slept through the night at 5 weeks. I was like, I'm gonna top all of them. This kid is gonna be asleep. And that all went out the window. As soon as I had the baby, I remember calling you. I think she was about maybe 6 to 8 weeks, sometime in there. And I was like, Alanna, I can't even get her to sleep at all. This child just does not want to sleep. You know, how could I even possibly begin to think about sleep training? 4 months is a good time to start. Because if you try any earlier, you're setting yourself up for failure, and then you're just gonna really feel like you don't have a handle on things. So don't be hard on yourselves. Whatever means necessary, whatever sleep you can get is all good sleep in the beginning.
Absolutely. You know, this is what I always tell families in that 4th trimester, so 0 to 4 months of age. Take the pressure off, right? Because like you, we're reading books, we're talking to people, talking to friends, talking to family, listening to experts like myself, and you think as soon as the baby gets here, I need to start applying all of these things, all of these things I've read and learned. But your baby's still young. Their natural circadian rhythms or natural sleep rhythms aren't fully developed. So to get them on that set schedule, those set wake ups, those set nap times, those set bedtimes, it's almost biological. Well, it is biologically impossible. I think we actually spoke when you were still pregnant, and I loved it because I knew you had done your research and you had read this. And in my head, I'm like, girl,
it is all gonna go out. But you keep thinking that. I really thought, like, this is it. I'm just gonna die here from from exhaustion and sleep deprivation. Like, how can I possibly go on and function as a human being with this little sleep? It really, it's something else. So just to hear from the sleep expert lady that, you know, I didn't need to be hard on myself, take the pressure off, you know, any sleep is a win at this stage. It really made me feel so much better. So if there are any women watching this who are in that phase of like, oh my God,
you're not alone.
You're not alone. And like, there is light at the other side of the tunnel. As Alanna said, like, I'm at that place in life with Bowie now. She's about to be 4 months. I'm gearing up to actually start sleep training. And you touched on biologically for baby why that is a good time period. But I will also say, as like a new mom who's in the throes of it all, I feel like biologically that's a good time frame for me too. Because those first few months, you don't feel like a human being. You know, it's a whole new thing. Life as you know it has just been flipped upside down, and no amount of reading or talking to people can prepare you for what motherhood is. So I feel like I've finally started to become this new version of myself, you know, which is weird because I feel like a little bit more like myself again, but also I'm, you know, mom now. And I'm just starting to figure out what that looks like for me. And in those first few months, it's like, sleep training. Are you kidding me? I am so freaking tired. There is no way if I've got a little window to cat nap in the night, I am gonna be getting up and, you know, working on that. Like, it takes brain power to sleep train. I think the one thing that you told me to do, you know, establish a constant space. So what that sleep space looks like, what that sleep environment is, so that hopefully, you know, that triggers baby. The nighttime thing was something that I really, really worked hard on because they don't know. They don't know. They come out of the womb, they're like, what world? Like, what is going on? They don't know nighttime is when you go to bed for the night. So forming a bedtime routine was really important to me. I even have a little bath time song. I'm not gonna sing it right now because I can't sing, but I have a little bad mom, like, bath time song. Her face lights up. She gets fussy in that little witching hour. All of a sudden, she's mute. She is just so excited to be going to bed.
You touched on two of the things that you can start doing really from day one. Yeah. So consistent bedtime space, sleep space, so consistent and conducive, and then a consistent bedtime routine. So nap time and bedtime routine. And that really, those two things are things you can start from day one. As a sleep professional, I always have to talk about safe sleep. That's something really within that 4th trimester that everyone should be starting alone on their back and in their crib, so in their own sleep space. If you want to room share, we work with a lot of families to room share, and that's fine, but provided baby's in their own sleep space, whether it's in your room or in baby's room. So safe sleep space, conducive. So things like darkening up the rooms, using white noise, making sure the temperature is good, not too hot, not too cold, and then having that consistent bedtime routine. So with Bowie, it's the bath. Whatever you might do, you don't have to necessarily give your baby a bath every day, but even if it's just singing a song or reading a book or just the act of going into the room, dimming the lights, changing their diaper, changing their, you know, putting them in their PJs. These consistent steps, these consistent activities kind of help prepare them for sleep.
As you can see, I'm like absorbing everything that she's saying because this video is not just for you people. This is for me. Mama needs her sleep back because I'm like ready to get back to work, and, you know, I want to make sure that she's just got that good solid sleep, because I can tell, you know, they say sleep begets sleep, and when she does not have a good night's sleep, her naps are terrible the next day, her mood is terrible the next day, and nobody wants that.
I think it's important to talk about the term sleeping through the night, because I think a lot of parents hear it and think that their baby should be doing those 11 hours, right? And like you said, she's not sleeping through those 11, like it's not a full sleep. And I think it's important to explain that sleeping through the night, how I define it is, it's not your baby putting your baby down at, say, 6 or 7 o'clock at night and having your baby sleep straight until 6 or 7 o'clock at night. They're gonna wake up. We wake up throughout the night, they wake up, we all cycle through light and deep sleep. So for me, sleeping through the night and teaching that to your children is having them learn how to get back into those deep stages of sleep and back into that next cycle of sleep on their own independently, where you don't have to go in and feed them to sleep, and you don't have to rock them and pacify or whatever you're doing. That's sleeping through the night.
And I just want to touch on and emphasize something that you just kind of mentioned and what you told me on the phone before too. Because I was like, Alanna, listen, I'm speaking to all of these people. I'm losing my mind. They're telling me that by 6 weeks, their kid was sleeping 12 hours straight.
And then I'm like,
they're lying to you. And that made me feel so much better. Bowie, I feel like now, biologically, I can tell that she is actually ready to start being assisted in sleeping through the night for real, because when she's getting up for these feeds, like I said, she goes straight back down, so there's no like awake time in the night at all. And sometimes she's not even really eating. Like sometimes she's just like, she'll fall asleep like on the first boob, you know? Like it's more just to kind of pacify herself. And because she goes, oh, I wake up in the night. Okay, mom, like do something with me. I need your advice now to tell me like how to know when to get her up and when to just try and keep her down. Because that's my hardest thing. If I hear her rustle even a little bit, like my husband in the morning, he's like, she's still good. I'm like, no, she moved. She moved. No, she's ready. She's ready. She needs to be lifted up and out of there. I get her up and out of that crib every single freaking time. And I know that I need to like let go a little bit.
So here's what I tell parents. In a perfect world, our babies would be sleeping the entire time they were in their cribs, right? But it's not always that case. But also what we want to teach our babies is to be happy and content and awake in their crib, in their sleep space, and not need you. Like, that's also something that's really good. So the fact that she's awake, and babies make noises, you know, it happens, or just even awake and happy and content, try not to go to, if it's not time to get up yet,
yes,
try not to go right away. We work with what we call like our 4 key tools. So we talked a bit about the first 2, sleep environment, which you're already doing really great with, bedtime routine, bedtime, which I don't know if I know yet. What time is she going to bed at?
I start getting her ready at 6:30 because that's when she starts to really hit her wall of like, I am done with today.
I am a big early bedtime pusher. So especially at that age, like basically at around 4 to 6 months of age, we're working on bringing bedtime earlier. So I know logically it doesn't make sense because you think as baby gets older, bedtime gets later, but actually as baby gets older, bedtime gets earlier. So it depends also how she's napping, which is our third tool that we work on, is those nice consolidated age-appropriate naps. If baby's napping during the day, you might be able to get away with that 6:30 bedtime. I wouldn't even go any later than that right now at her age.
Okay.
So meaning she's in her crib at 6:30.
Okay.
So bedtime routine start around 6.
Okay.
If she's not napping well, and naps are super common to not be going well right now, so we will definitely touch on that. We're putting babies down to bed even as early as 5:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also remember on our first call being like, listen.
Yeah. Do you
Okay.
remember this?
Me and my husband, we like to stay up late. We like to go out, and I was reading like this musician and his wife put their kid down at like 9:30, 10, and then they just start their day at that time the next day, and it works. So I feel like we're going to do that. She's like, yeah.
I do remember you saying that. I'm like, yeah, no, totally. You can do that.
I'm like 5:30. That sounds amazing. So let's talk napping because as you just saw, she walked in the door and I was trying to put Bowie down for a nap and failed miserably. She's not the best napper. Naturally, she has started to kind of have 3 windows of nap time possibilities throughout the day.
I like that.
One is around like 9 o'clock, one is around noon, and one is around 4 o'clock. Those are her kind of windows. Sometimes, more often than not, the naps last for about 30 minutes. But sometimes we get like a good 2 hours. To me, I can't see what the rhyme or reason is between any of that. I'm sure you know what the rhyme or reason is. I can't pinpoint it. Otherwise, I would repeat it every time. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Nap struggles, super common. And I say that to make you feel better. I say that to make those watching feel better. It's probably one of the biggest sleep struggles that we see with babies, right? So with, once we start working in that age range, the main reason why naps, those 30 to 45 minute naps that we see, a lot of parents say, why can my babies do these nice long stretches at night and then they're only doing 30 to 45 minute naps during the day? The biggest reason why is just their drive for sleep, their natural drive for sleep isn't as strong. So it's harder for them to get into that next cycle of sleep. So typically a baby's sleep cycle going from light to deep sleep is 30 to 45 minutes. So it's harder for them to get into that next cycle of sleep to consolidate that nap during the day. They're capable of doing it. They could absolutely do it, but it just requires more practice, right? And that's where we come in, and that's where we're giving them the opportunity to practice. So things that will definitely help get them into that next cycle is, we talked about it already, consistent sleep space, conducive sleep space, so darkening up the room as much as you can, making it as sleep friendly as you can. Being consistent on the times on when you're putting them down. So even though their drive for sleep during the day isn't as strong, there are times throughout the day that their drives are stronger. So typically they're about that 9 to 11, that 1 to 3 time frame. With Bowie's age, like within that 4 to 7 month mark, you might have to go maybe as early as 8:30 or 12:30, but typically those are kind of the time frames you want to aim, because their drive for sleep is a little bit stronger, so it's going to help them fall asleep a lot better. It's also going to help them get better restorative sleep. You can have like an amazing day of naps and you're like, boom, my kid is amazing. And then the next day everything falls apart, and that's normal. So don't give up.
Have to admit, I have a confession. I put my kid down asleep. Like if I put her down, I know they say you're supposed to put them down drowsy but awake. And if they're asleep, then like wake them up, like tickle the foot and wake them up a little. If I wake Bowie up, she's like, like she is not into it. I have to put her down out. Otherwise she just doesn't sleep. And I know that that's setting myself up and her for like disaster. But I just can't not do it.
Naps can produce some crying, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Probably more so than at night.
Okay.
And again, it's just that drive, right? And also they're more awake and alert and they wanna be around as they're getting older. They're more observant of what's going on and whether you leave the room or not, and they wanna be involved in that, right? So naps can produce a little bit of crying. What I always say is two things. One is however your child falls asleep, whether it be for nap time or bedtime, is how your child's gonna need to fall asleep when they do wake up. Right? So when they're cycling in and out of those cycles of sleep, that deep to light, and then we want to get them back into that deep cycle, they're going to need that prop or that external prop, whether it be feeding, rocking, soother, bouncing on a ball, like whatever you're doing to get your baby to sleep, they're going to need you to continue to do that.
Right.
So our goal is to teach our babies to fall asleep on their own so that they don't need you. For naps, I always say just like stop, wait, and listen. Know that 30 to 45 minutes is not enough of a restorative sleep. So if your baby is waking up at that time, it's not the time to kind of swoop in and end the nap. Like try and, even if you can just do 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you can do, and try to not go in.
Okay.
And see if they can, again, practice getting into that next cycle of sleep. So as long as you can do it, try to. Obviously, the more time we give them, the quicker they do get it. But if you can only do little steps each day, then that's okay too. Same for bedtime. You know, at bedtime, however you're putting them down is how they're gonna need to be put back down to sleep. That's where the fourth tool comes in. So we talked a little bit about the naps. That's the third tool. The fourth tool would be the method. That's where you get into the crying it out and stuff like that.
Oh,
crying it out is not the only method to use. There's a lot of methods out there, but that's where you need to kind of come together as a partner, as a team, and choose what method you want to use.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one for us.
It's hard, for sure.
Because I remember, again, like I was so tough love, like rock and roll mom in my head before the baby was here. And I was like, she'll cry it out. It's fine. There is no way that my stomach can handle and my heart will just explode. And I know Josh is even worse than me.
Yeah. Often sleep training gets that bad rap because we automatically assume that they have to cry it out, right? And that's not the only method. It is a method, I'm not gonna lie. And that's where you're going in, putting baby down to bed, and then you're not going back in, it's extinction. You're not going back in until the morning, once baby's old enough to do it. It's not the only method to do, it's the quickest for sure, but there's other methods where you can be more involved, where you can be in the room, where you can check on baby. You have to kind of sit down and say, okay, what works with our parenting philosophy? What are we most comfortable doing? Also, what method is gonna work best for baby? So what method is Bowie gonna accept to bed, right? It's not always a method that mom and dad wanna use. In my opinion, there is no method that is a no cry solution.
No, it's what babies do though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's their form of communicating.
I really appreciate you coming to do this video because I wanted to like share your geniusness with everybody else because I know sleep was, again, my biggest fear before becoming a mom. You know, losing sleep as you've known it your entire life is a scary thought because we need it to survive, and so do our babies. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I've been super candid about everything along the way, so that's where we're at with sleep with Bowie, and I will keep you updated once she actually finally for real sleeps through the night.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You guys can find out more information about Goodnight Sleep Site at goodnightsleepsite.com. You can follow me on Instagram at GNSleepSite, and we also have our podcast called This Girl Loves Sleep, where I talk all about sleep and talk to different experts and parenting advice, and you can find that anywhere you download podcasts.
All of that will be linked in the video description below. Mwah!